What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel and another video. This week's video we'll be taking a look at how to finish a piece with Rubio Monocoat. So I've got a bench top here made out of white oak that'll be the bench for the hall tree that you can see behind me in the background. So I've got everything built on that, and at this point it's time to go ahead and finish this top. And to finish this bench top, like I just mentioned, I've got some Rubio Monocoat here. This is Rubio Chocolate, and after this top is finished, it'll have a really nice, rich, dark brown chocolate look to it. Now before we do anything, we need to sand down the piece. Rubio recommends going no finer than 180 grit, and then after it's sanded, we want to wipe everything down with mineral spirits to get rid of all that dust. So the first thing you'll need to do is to open each can of the stain. Obviously, if you don't have the cans open, how are you supposed to get the stain out? Anyway, this is a 3-to-1 mixture. 1 part of the hardener and then 3 parts of the actual stain itself. If you're using spoons to measure like I am, I would recommend that you keep those spoons in your shop and not put them back in the kitchen. So you pour the mixture onto the surface, and then you take this plastic spreader and you just spread it in. One thing about Rubio is that you don't have to worry about leaving any hard lines by the stain. So when I first poured that out, I kind of poured it in a snake pattern, and that's not a problem at all because it'll all blend in perfectly. Using this with the plastic spreader is a super satisfying process, and to watch the wood turn the color of the stain, it's just awesome overall. While the plastic spreader does work really well for getting the majority of whatever surface you're staining, sometimes I find that it does leave a little bit of gaps, and it can be easier just to wipe it on with a cloth. Okay, so the first coat is now on, and to be honest, this looks pretty rough, and that's okay because we're going to fix this up later. But that's the point that I want to emphasize here, is that when you put this first coat on, especially if you're using a towel or a rag, there can be a lot of smudges on the top, and this can really look unfinished. So you can see here, this is where I stopped with the towel. There's some heavy marks there. The same thing down on this other end. You can see how the color changes there. Now, if this was how the piece looked like when it was finished, I would not be happy at all, but we're going to wipe all this out and buff all that back out with another rag, and this is going to look awesome when we're done. And here is just a little bit more so you can see on the end here. You can see where I had the rag going this way, and it honestly just doesn't look good. Here's another big smudge right there. So if you left those on the tabletop, that would look awful. So we're going to let this set for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we will fix this up and make it look great. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. I've got a clean rag here, and all I'm going to do now is go across the top and wipe all the excess of this off, and you'll see really quickly how this goes from a smudgy mess into a beautiful, perfect finish. So as I'm wiping this off, you can see the section that I am wiping will lighten up quite a bit, and that's the excess stain coming off of that. So if you watch my channel and you've seen a lot of my previous videos, you'll notice that whenever I'm staining something with a stain that isn't Rubio, you'll hear me often say to go in the direction of the grain in case you leave any hard marks, because those are impossible to get out with a different stain. With Rubio, I still try to go with the grain, but it really doesn't make a difference if you have those hard spots because they are possible to wipe out, as you can see here. And when you think you're finished, I like to grab a clean towel and do the whole process over again just to see if there's anything that still comes off on that new clean towel. You want to get as much off as you can, and this step is something you don't want to skip to ensure a great finish. Okay, so here's what the top looks like after it's wiped off. The grain on that looks unreal, and it looks so much better after you wipe all the excess off of there. So that's what'll really make the finish pop, is once you get it all wiped off and everything's smoothed into the tabletop, and you'll have something that looks very similar to this. So we'll let this dry. Rubio takes about 7 days to cure. We're gonna come back in 1 to 2 days, and we'll put the maintenance oil on. So all we have to do now is let this dry. And so one thing to note is that Rubio does have a warning on it that your rags or whatever you use to buff the stain in can actually spontaneously combust or catch on fire. So you want to be sure to soak these in water or get rid of them because you don't want to leave these laying around. Okay, so it's the next day now. Now this is dry. It's not cured yet, but it is dry. And in my opinion, it looks awesome as it is, but it's kind of missing that extra pop. So to give it that extra pop, we use this right here. This is Rubio's maintenance oil, and this stuff's even easier to use than the original oil mix. So using this will be a lot like detailing a car. We'll put this on and we'll buff it in, we'll let it set for a while, and then we'll buff it back out. And this will give it a little bit of extra sheen that'll make it look even better than it does right now. And just so you can tell what I'm talking about, the grain on this looks absolutely awesome, but it's a little bit dull. So that's why we're gonna use this maintenance oil. So we'll go ahead and put that maintenance oil on, and then we'll really take this top to the next level. So no mixing is required with the maintenance oil, and like the Rubio itself, the maintenance oil is an expensive product, but both it and the actual stain itself will go a long way with just a little bit of the oil. And similarly to how we put the stain on itself, we'll use the spreader again to just spread all of this out. Now you don't have to worry about getting it in every single spot because you'll buff it in first. And they do make special buffers or sanding head attachments just for this, but I found that a cheap car buffer works just fine and gets the job done. This buffer was only about 20 bucks and it hasn't failed me yet. So you can see here where the light is on it, you can see the added sheen, and I think that this just gives it that extra pop and it makes it look even better. So we'll let this set for maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so, then we'll come back with a new pad on the buffer and we'll polish all of the excess out just like we did when we wiped it off yesterday. Not a whole lot of extra detail on this step. You do just want to make sure that you use a clean buffing pad, and normally I'll grab a pad that's a little bit fluffier for this step. That way it acts as if we're actually polishing the final product on. So here's a quick look at the top after that is all buffed in. Coat is nice and even, there's no smudge marks. The buffer really smooths everything out. So we'll let this set for about a week or so, and then we'll come back and we'll take a final look at it after it is finally dry and cured. Here is a quick look at the grain. Again, this is Rubio Chocolate on Oak, and if you haven't already, drop a comment below and let me know what you think about how this turned out. All right, so here we are about a week later. The top is dry, completely cured. This turned out awesome, exactly how I wanted it, and I'm really happy with this finish overall. So one thing that I really love about Rubio, in addition to how good it looks, is how easy it is to use. My favorite part about this is that once you buff that final coat in, that's it. You let it set, don't touch it. There's no sanding, no multiple coats. It's the base coat, that maintenance oil, and you're finished. So just for a real quick comparison, this here is a can of Minwax stain. Now on the Minwax, you get about a quart, and that'll run you maybe $12, $13, whereas with this, you can see you get a whole lot less. And this will run you maybe between $50 and $60. There's a huge price difference there, but again, if you're finishing a nice piece, especially something that's oak or walnut, maybe some maple, in my opinion, you definitely can't beat Rubio. And despite the price difference between the Minwax and the Rubio, with the Minwax, to make it really look good, you'll have to put a coat on, do multiple coats of polyurethane or polyacrylic. So with the ease of Rubio, in addition to how good it looks when it's finished, Rubio gets my vote every time. So guys, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. I hope you found this content useful. Also, give Rubio a try sometime. In addition to that, as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because you won't want to miss out on the upcoming build of this haul tree. I've almost got that video finished, so be sure to stay tuned for that. So again, thank you for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more.